Today I'm going to show you how to rebuild your classic VW Beetle IRS rear suspension and make it go from looking like this to this. These are the new bearings and seals that I'm going to show you how to swap. They fit just in there. There's a bearing on each side. At the age of just 13, I embarked on a daring adventure by buying this classical wreck. The car has remained off the road for nearly 4 decades. 36 years left for dead. So the first thing we need to do is get the bearings out. To do that, we come to the back here and clean away all this rubbish, and there should be a clip. So there's actually just an oil seal in front of this clip, so we need to try and get that out first. That's the bit that the bearing runs on. Let's see if this oil seal will come out. That's really tight, so we're going to take it to the vise and see if that does it any better. So I'm just getting the pry bar underneath the seal. We're going to try and lift it up. Ooh. Well, that's just cracked his cover. Hopefully that'll be alright. There we go. That'll pretty tight. Now we can see that just here there's actually a circlip that goes all the way around. So I've got some circlip pliers. See if we can get it out. Should be pretty easy because it's full of grease. So on this other bearing, take the inner out. Then we should be able to get a bar through and hit the other bearing out. So go through the spacer and hit the bearing. There we are, just thrown to the other side of the room. So that's the bearing out. Now we'll be able to reach his hands in and get that spacer. Right then, I'm now going to do the same with this one. Put the bar in, try not the bearing out. Oh, that were easy. There's also a little rubber seal that goes all the way around just here. On top, I'm going to grab that. And that's it. Now we just need to get in there and clean it out. Just get the tissue in there. Just need to pull all this old grease out. That's clean enough for now. I will clean it again once it's all painted. So we've got the O-ring, the circlip, the oil seal, the inner bearing, which sits just in here, the standard looking bearing, and the spacer. We're not going to need the bearings, but we are going to need the circlip and this spacer. So let's give them a wipe down. Just getting all this old grease off, ready to fit with our new grease. There we go. We'll put these with our new bearings, and these can all go in the bin. Right then, let's get our arm cleaned up. Now we've got this cleaned up the best we can, I'm just going to get some rust killer coated on it. I'm not sure how good this stuff is because I've not really used it before. But I guess we'll find out. This rust killer's been left to do some work now, so I'm just going to irritate it all with the drill. Whoa. Well, that's one way to rip your glove off. So the rust killer did a decent job, but it wasn't good enough for me. So I've made my own little sandblaster. Let's see how well it works. It's in an IBC bottom, so hopefully we can save most of the sand. So this sandblaster I've made is doing a great job. As you can see here, this is where I've done. There's no rust. Whereas here, it's all full of rust. And the sandblaster's good because you can get into the places that you can't get to with the wire wheel. Now we have the arms cleaned up, the next thing I'm going to do is clean up these torsion plates. Look at the difference between these two now. Let's get this one cleaned up to the same condition, then we can get painting. So we just spray this stuff on and it should convert the rust. Need to get it in every nook and cranny. I'm just going to go over this arm with some sandpaper so that the paint sticks. As you can see, it puts some scratches in so that the paint bonds. I've now got some cleaner, so I'm going to wipe this down, ready to paint. So I've wiped it down until I wipe it and the rag is still clean. Now I'm just going to blow it off with the air. Let's get these parts masked up. So I've also got some nice new drive shafts. Let's open the box up and see what they look like. Lovely. Already packed with oil as well. Or grease, should I say. Well, I'm really happy with these. I do need to mask this up and emery paper this part because I am going to paint this as it is bare metal and I don't want it to go rusty. Right then, let's get them masked up. That's both the drive shafts, sanded, cleaned and ready to paint. Let's take everything to the painting area. So we have also got this axle here that I am doing on another video. But I thought it's best to paint everything in one go. Let's get this undercoat mixed. Right then, let's get some paint on these parts. I've left these parts overnight to dry and they've come out amazing. This undercoat's really nice, so the next thing we need to do is get the colour on. The colour I am going for is Marina Blue, which is actually the original colour for my car. Here's a picture of the car. Right then, let's see what this colour looks like. As you can see, it is very blotchy, but that is because it's a bed liner. I'm hoping doing it in this type of paint is going to be stronger than normal. But it is a lovely colour. Let's carry on spraying. I've left this paint to dry overnight and it's just dry enough to touch. So I'm going to take all the masking tape off. The reason I'm doing it now is so that it doesn't rip the paint off the metal. So let's get to it. We also need to take the masking tape off of these arms. So that's all the masking tape off. It's all come out really nice. So now I'm going to leave these to fully cure, then we'll get them all fitted to the car. These parts have been left to dry for a few days now and they've come out lovely. So let's get them off this stand and get them fitted to the car. These are the parts that I have to do my rear suspension. We have the shock absorbers, which are the adjustable ones, the rear end of course that we've painted, and then a bunch of urethane parts, all top quality. We've also got the leaf springs here, which will fit in there. I've also got 2 boxes of stainless steel bolts. I've tried to get as many stainless steel bolts for this car as possible. Right then. Let's see if we can get these arms fitted. So this bar is the first thing that I need to fit. So I'm going to get some grease and put it on the splines. And I am noting that these are actually handed. On here, there's an R for right, and on the other one, there's an L for left. Both sides of the splines need greasing up. So I just need to lightly knock this in. Get the splines connected, there we go. We've got this bush and I've got the provided grease. I'm going to put that round the inside. And I don't know if the outside needs greasing, so I'm just going to use some multi-purpose grease on it. Right then, let's get it slotted in. Now that's all in, I'm going to put this onto the stock ride height. Then I will use this graph to get my desired ride height. So I've got this to the right height, so I'm now just going to knock it on. We now have these bushes to put on, so let's get them out of the packet. That just goes over like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some grease around here. A little bit on the inside as well. Now let's knock this on. There we go, it's on. Now I'm just going to get a big blob of grease and put it round the inside of this cover. Now the cover's on, I've got our stainless steel bolts and washers. Got a spring nut on there as well. Spring washer I mean. Let's get them bolted on. So to fit this arm, the first thing I need to do is fit this bush. So we're going to put some of this grease over the pin. In fact, it doesn't need to go over it, it needs to go inside it. So it goes inside the pin, and on the outside of these bushers. Now I've got them bushers in, I'm just greasing the inside of this pin. And I am going to put a bit of grease on the outside as well, just to help it slot in. It has been quite tricky, so I'm just going to squash it in with a vice. There we go. That's the pin all the way in. Now we've got the bushing in, let's get it fitted. I've just realised I'm trying to fit the wrong side. So what I'm going to do is, I'll do the same to that side, what I've just done to this one, then we'll get this one fitted. I have now got the correct side, so let's get it fitted. I've got these two big washers to slot in, they fit on this side. And then we've got the massive Allen key bolt. That's on tight. I'm going to get this side connected, then I'll put a notch in this so that it doesn't move. So I've taken these two bolts out and put this one in here, hoping to push this down and get that in there. But looking at it, I've actually fitted the wrong plate. I did think that they were both the same, but clearly they're not. As you can see, that hole is at the top, whereas this hole is at the bottom. And if this hole were at the bottom, it would bring this down to make them fit. So I'm going to have to take this plate back off and refit this one. There we go. So while it's loose, I'm also going to put these in. So I've just realised I've done another thing wrong. I've put this on the wrong way around this time. So I'm going to get that to the other side of this arm. That's finally on correctly. The next thing we're going to do is fit the shock absorber. So I've set the shock absorber to the way I want it using that dial. Because these are lowered shock absorbers and there's no weight on this wheel yet, as you can see, if I pull it, it does come up. So when there's weight on this car, it should bring it down a load. But just to get the shocker on, I'm going to have to lift it up. That's the shock absorber on. So the last thing on this side of the car is this bump stop. Because I have lowered the car, I think I am going to have to cut it, but I'm not sure for now, so I'm just going to put it on. There we go. That's one side of the car finished for the suspension. Now I've got this side all built up, I'm going to get my dad to come give me an hand, and I'm going to move this chassis so we can get to the other side, and then we'll get the bearings fitted. Right then, let's get this side on. We've got these rear arms on and they look amazing. The next thing that I'm going to put on is these rear bearings. Here's the parts that I have. We've got all the new bearings and seals, new circlips, Let's get the right hand side built up. So I've got a brand new rag, just making sure it's perfectly clean in here. Now we know that it's fully clean in here, we've got the bearing, I'm just going to pack it with grease. As you can see, I'm pushing all the grease into the bearings. You can't really overpack a bearing, so I'm going to get as much grease on here as possible. So this bearing that I'm doing first is actually the rear bearing. I'm just going to get a bit of grease around here as well. All the grease that's left over on my hand. Then I'm going to make sure that the writing's to the front so that you can see it. Set it down as evenly as possible. Now let's carefully tap it in using the rubber mallet. I'm ensuring not to hit on the inside as that will break the bearing, only knocking it on the outside. I've got a 41mm socket, this seems to fit perfect. Let's knock it a bit harder. Just going all the way till it seats. If you look at the back of the bearing, you can see if it's seated. And this is not seated yet, so let's hit it some more. Well, that doesn't seem to be moving anymore. Let's have a look. Perfect. Seated, really nice. So let's get this circlip fitted. Just slots in there. We heard it clicking, so that should be good. As you can see, the bearing's in there with the circlip, all greased up. Now the bearing is seated with the circlip, I've got this rubber seal. Let's get this in. So this seal actually goes in and doesn't stick out. So let's hit it all the way in. The next thing to do is put as much grease in here as possible. Then we can install this spacer. Just fits in there. It's time to fit this other bearing, so let's get it packed. As you can see, the grease comes in from this side and pushes through. That's how you know that you're packing it correctly. Just trying to get this sat as evenly as possible before we start hitting it in. So this one doesn't actually seat all the way. That looks about perfect. The last bit I'm going to fit for now is this just here. It's got a chamfer on it. Just going to push it in there. And there we go. That's the wheel bearings fitted on this side. Let's do the same to the other side. So that's all the rear bearings installed. I'm not going to go any further with this yet, as in the next video I will show you that I've got some upgrades. So I have got a few spare parts, but they will be going on in the next video. So if you'd like to give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.